Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heart of the Matter, a broadcast series where survivors come on and share their stories, inspiring us to live the healthiest lives we can. I want to remind everyone that heart disease is the #1 killer of women, taking the lives of 1 in 4. 48 million women are either living with or at risk of heart disease in the United States. I share these statistics because my guest today is a survivor of heart disease. I'm so honored and proud and happy to have my friend and heart sister with me today. Tannie Coward is my guest. I'm going to read of her bio and then I'm going to ask her to share her story. Tannie Coward is married to her husband, Oscar. She has 3 adult children. She retired after 33 years of serving the criminal justice community in Harris and Dallas County. Most recently, Tannie retired from serving the Houston wedding community as the owner of her own business, Divine Choices Wedding and Event Planning. That sounds fun. In her spare time, Tannie likes to play golf, travel, read, and volunteer with her church. She's also a volunteer with Women Heart Champion. Won't you join me in welcoming my guest, Tannie Coward? Hi, Tannie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for being here today. So, Tannie, I would love it if you would tell us your story and then answer a few questions for me. Please
Sure,
do.
my pleasure. Well, let's start with the story. Approximately 5 years ago, I woke up with a real hacking cough. I actually couldn't sleep one night, and every time I tried to get comfortable, I kept choking. So I got up the next morning and said I'm going to go to an urgent care facility because what I thought was just an upper respiratory infection, and I felt like I just needed some medicine to clear me up, some antibiotics to get me going. So I did go to the urgent care facility. The doctor did see me. He did a chest X-ray, and after he did the chest X-ray, he asked me did I drive myself to the facility, and I didn't. At the time, it was my fiance, Oscar, and he had actually driven me to the facility. So he asked if I could go get him. I went to the lobby. I went and got him. We came back in, and he looked at my fiance, which is now my husband, and he said, "You need to take her to a hospital." And my question was, "Is what are you looking at? What are you seeing? What's going on?" And I live in a suburb of Houston, and he was telling us that we needed to actually go to the medical center and not a small boutique hospital in my neighborhood. So we did. We went down, and again, I'm thinking that, oh, it's a really bad upper respiratory infection. So we get to the hospital, we go in, and he actually gave me my records, my X-ray, on a little jump drive, and he said, just give this to them. Once they look at it, they'll know how to proceed. We did that. They looked at it, and the guy that did the X-ray, when he looked at it, he said, "Are you able to breathe?" And I was like, "Sure, I'm breathing. I'm talking to you. Of course, I'm breathing." He was like, "Okay, well, the doctor will be in to talk to you shortly." Well, let me fast forward the story. I stayed in the hospital about 5 days. And my regular doctor came in and he said, "Well, Tannie, we're going to let you go home. I just need you to see one more doctor. And if this doctor approves you going home, we got all the fluid off of you, then you're more than free to go home." About 10 minutes later, a doctor comes in and he has the word cardiologist written on his lab jacket. And I'm thinking to myself, why is the cardiologist coming in here to see me? And all I had was an upper respiratory infection because that's what I assumed I had. The cardiologist came in. And of course, when you go into the hospital, they ask you your family questions, your family history. And so when the cardiologist came in, he asked me, what did my father die of? And I said, well, my dad died of a massive heart attack at 45 years old. And he was like, okay. And then he asked me about my brother's history. And I said, well, I do have a brother that has congestive heart failure. He has a pacemaker and a defibrillator. I said, well, what does all of these questions have to do with me? He said, well, the reason I'm asking you these questions is because you too have congestive heart failure. What you have is what we call familiar congestive heart failure, which means that it's hereditary. It's nothing that you did. It's just that you're genetically predisposed to having congestive heart failure, and you actually do have it. And of course, that just kind of rocked my world. But I recovered pretty quick because before the doctor left the room, I asked him, I have one question for you. And that question is this reversible? And my doctor was kind of shocked. He was like, nobody's ever recovered that fast and was able to ask me that question. But yes, it is with medicine and good nutrition and following instructions. So 5 years later, here I am with medicine, following the doctor's orders, and good nutrition.
What an amazing story. I've known you for a year or so, and I really guess I hadn't heard it completely. I have goosebumps. Tannie, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
I think it's so important to talk about genetics. Many of us might know of a family member that has heart disease or had heart disease, and we forget about it or we don't think about it. But it's very important. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I had no idea that my dad even had heart disease. He never shared that information with us. But my doctor was certain your dad didn't die of a massive heart attack, Tannie. I'm certain he had congestive heart failure and it just went untreated.
So, a quick question to clarify. Congestive heart failure is different from heart disease because
it is a heart disease. But the congestive heart failure, to my understanding, is your heart muscles just aren't pumping as well as they should be.
And that's my understanding too.
Yes,
and
it's just fluid builds up and then it kind of smothers your heart and it keeps it from pumping like it's supposed to.
And it fails. Therefore,
it fails. I think they need to change the word from failure, though. I don't like that word failure, but
most of us don't.
Yeah.
You're so right. Okay, what a great story to show us and to tell us that it is reversible. And you asked the question and stumped your doctor. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you a few questions that I like to know from each person I talk to. What emotions did you feel after he told you that?
Initially, I was shocked. I just did not expect that. I literally had packed my bags at the hospital and I was ready to go. Now, of course, after he told me that, I think I stayed probably 4 or 5 more days because then they started running the battery of tests to determine what my injection fraction was and, how damaged my heart was and things of that nature. The heart catheterization to see if I had any blockage or anything like that. So once he gave me the diagnosis, it kind of threw me for a minute there, but I recovered. But yeah,
You did.
I was really surprised.
I think that's your nature to recover. Oh, great. So did you make any lifestyle changes? Some people have to, diet and exercise, that kind of thing.
The biggest lifestyle change that I actually made was, like I said, I went to work that Friday. I went to the urgent care that Saturday. Little did I know that Friday was going to be my last day working as a court officer. My doctor actually told me that weekend that I wouldn't be able to go back to work because of the type of work that I did and the possibility of me catching an infection. And it affected my heart. So I had to immediately stop working. And I would say that probably was the biggest surprise and lifestyle change that I actually had because I've been working since I was 16 years old.
I can't imagine. I'm like you.
Yeah.
You start working young and you love working. So may I ask, how old were you when this happened?
I was 54. I was diagnosed at 54.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be hard to not go back to work.
Yeah, it rocked. Now that rocked my world. He said congestive heart failure. Okay, what can we do about it? But when he said you can't ever go back to work, now that really rocked my world.
I can imagine. Well,
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest lifestyle changes I've heard in an answer.
I did make other lifestyle changes. Of course, I changed my diet. I always exercise. I run. I play golf. So I always exercise. I was pretty active. But the main thing I did was I definitely had to stop eating my fast food, stop eating my French fries, stop. If anybody knows me, know I love potato chips. I had to stop eating my Lay's potato chips. Particularly those type. I had to get to the low sodium chips.
And there's such a difference in taste. We won't go into
Huge.
that right now. So let me ask you this. What did you learn about yourself after your diagnosis?
The first thing I can honestly say, it strengthened my faith. I always had a lot of faith, but it just reminded me that nothing is impossible with God. And God just did not give me the spirit of fear. And what I really learned about myself is I knew the word, but once I was diagnosed, I knew the word was in me.
That's very inspiring. I love that. So, Tannie, the last question I always ask everyone is this. What is your advice to women about heart disease?
That's a good question, and I thank you for asking me that. The first thing I would say is listen to your body. But in order to listen to your body, you have to know your body. Um, like I said, I thought it was an upper respiratory infection, but I knew something wasn't right. So I knew to not lay around and not do anything about it. I knew to go to the doctor and get it checked out. That's the first thing. And then once you learn your body and you learn what's going on with your body, follow the instructions. Take your medicine. It is reversible. It is treatable. It is treatable. I have to keep saying that because the word failure, I think that probably threw me for a minute. And then once he told me, yeah, we can do something about it, that made me relax a little bit. I'm not going to say a lot because, of course, I was anxious about it. But and the last thing I would probably say is I took this mess and I made it into a message. I wanted to tell anybody that will listen to your body. Once you learn something is wrong, follow the instructions of your doctor and you'll be okay. You've got to be. I mean, we only get one life to live and we're going to live it to the best of our ability. And that's what I'm doing right now. I just want to spread the word, help educate my sisters to listen to your body. I keep saying it because I think that's probably the biggest message of all. We as women, we chunk things off and say, it's just a headache or it's just indigestion, which is it's just indigestion. And indigestion does not last weeks and weeks and weeks.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
I love your motto. You took a mess and turned it into a message.
Yes.
That gives me goosebumps too, because that's part of this mission. We want to reach as many women as we can and tell them of our experience and turn this mess into a message. That's
Yes.
so awesome. So inspiring, Tannie.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you. And I just remembered that I forgot to say something at the very beginning, and that is my name is Susan Smith and I'm your host. And people won't know that unless I say it. But I'm going to sign off for now and thank you, Tannie, for coming on. Your story and your message and your tips to us were so inspiring, and I can't wait for this to air. And so I'm going to say goodbye to the audience, but if you stay put, you and I can talk afterwards. So goodbye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Okay.